When all this is over, unless he receives a presidential pardon from Donald Trump, Stephen Miller will be held to account. He will be forced to answer questions about his role, his outsized illegal role. As much as I hate to be the bearer of bad news, this is alarming. Stephen Miller might be the actual president of the United States. And I know that sounds it doesn't really sound fantastical in a Donald Trump administration where he's off promoting his tennis shoes and his cell phones and his perfumes and all of the other nonsense, grifting off the presidency. He's got a true believer in Stephen Miller who runs the entire operation, who tells the attorney general what to do, how to do her job, who tells the Secretary of Homeland Security what to do, how to do her job. Let me give you 3 examples from different headlines of what I'm talking about, and then we will address his murder, his extrajudicial killing of people on a boat in the waters off Venezuela's coast. No evidence, no due process, just Stephen Miller's direction. First, let's go to the Daily Beast. Here's the headline. Stephen Miller is running the show for top cabinet official. The top Donald Trump aide has the real power at a key department and has since day one. 2 paragraphs. Stephen Miller, a top aide for President Donald Trump with no law degree, has secretly seized control of the Justice Department, according to a report in the New York Times. While the DOJ has historically operated with a degree of independence from the White House, Attorney General Pam Bondi has been receiving her marching orders from Miller since her first day on the job. Current and former Trump aides told the Times. A headline for the New York Times. As White House steers Justice Department, Bondi embraces role of TV messenger because that is but what she's been reduced to. And then from the article, Miss Bondi also urged people, let me go back. This is about Stephen Miller telling Pam Bondi, no, what you want is not what I want. You're not going to get your way. I get my way. And this is specifically related to the pardons for violent offenders who were convicted related to the January 6th insurrection against the country. Miss Bondi also urged people around the president to limit clemency for January 6 rioters to those not accused of acting violently. She was blindsided when Mr. Trump extended pardons to even violent offenders on day one. It was clear from the start that Mr. Stephen Miller, who is not a lawyer, would exercise control inside the department, current and former Trump aides said. Quote, I can't recall an attorney general who seemed willing to be subordinate to White House staffers, said Edward Whelan, a conservative former Justice Department official. And then let's go to Reuters, this little ditty, this little headline about Stephen Miller controlling the Department of Homeland Security. So that makes 2 separate and independent cabinet departments that he's running, as well as being the deputy chief of staff for Donald Trump. Again, from Reuters, the White House aide driving Trump's aggressive immigration agenda. For senior White House aide Stephen Miller, the architect of President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown, things were going according to plan. He'd set an aggressive quota of 3,000 arrests per day in late May, and the efforts to meet the goals pushed U.S. immigration officers into more communities and businesses, triggering protests and political tensions with Democrats. He's POTUS. Stephen Miller is the acting president of the United States, while our addled, dementia-riddled moron of a president sets his attention to the ballroom, sets his attentions to the gold leaf in the Oval Office, sets his attention to sharing conspiracy AI videos of himself and his daughter-in-law that he then has to delete because it's obvious that he thought it was real, and now he's trying to cover that up. Here's the latest headline about Stephen Miller very likely being acting president from The Guardian. Stephen Miller takes leading role in strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug boats. Exclusive. Miller's Homeland Security Council has played a key part in coordinating operations, sources say. Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, has played a leading role in directing U.S. strikes against suspected, accused, no due process. They've not proved it. They've not showed any evidence to anyone. Suspected drug boats, according to 3 people familiar with the situation. At times, his role has superseded that of Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. So now we've got, he runs the Homeland Security Department. He runs the DOJ. He runs the State Department, and he runs the White House. What would that make him? That would make him the President of the United States of America. At times, his role has superseded that of Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. Remember, Marco Rubio has 4 jobs. He's on paper has 4 jobs. He actually reports to Stephen Miller. The strikes on the Venezuelan boats allegedly carrying narcotics, which the administration has claimed were necessary because interdiction did not work, have been orchestrated through the Homeland Security Council, the HSC, which Miller leads as the Homeland Security Advisor. Miller empowered the HSC this year to become its own entity in Donald Trump's second term, a notable departure from previous administrations where it was considered part of the National Security Council and ultimately reported to the National Security Advisor, who is now, again, Marco Rubio, who now reports to Stephen Miller. It's a snake eaten its disgusting Trump tail. A White House spokesperson said in a statement the strikes were directed by Trump, saying he oversaw all elements of foreign policy. The entire administration is working together to execute the president's directive with clear success, the statement said. The prepared statement said. But the previously underreported role of Miller and his massive influence with the president also explains how striking Venezuelan boats became a major priority and why Trump has been happy to deploy extraordinary military force to the region. Final paragraph that I'm reading, Miller's role also opens a window into the dubious legal justification that has been advanced for the strikes, which has been a matter of deep controversy amid allegations it amounted to extrajudicial murder in international waters. And of course, Miller's role does open a dubious window, seeing as though he's a non-lawyer, just noted white supremacist with hate that fuels his heart, that's making the decisions for the White House, for the Department of Homeland Security, for the Department of Justice, for the Secretary of State. That's a problem. We didn't elect him. But let me say this. When all of this is over, unless he receives a presidential pardon from Donald Trump, if Donald Trump doesn't die on the job in the next year, Stephen Miller will be held to account. He will be forced to answer questions about his role, his outsized illegal role in some cases. He is not Senate confirmed. He was not appointed to any position with any oversight whatsoever. This is a problem. They know it's a problem. That's why they try to keep it a secret.
This system is called the endocannabinoid system. You will deliver the most important senior health initiative of the century.
Yesterday, I talked about the fact that Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social network, the social network that the President of the United States owns, that this nearing 80, or is he 80 now? This 79, 80-year-old man posted a video. And I asked the question, put it out there. I think Donald Trump posted this weird AI-generated video, this conspiracy theory about MedBeds, which some believe is alien technology, some believe it's magic, some believe it's a literal miracle, and then others think that it's actually like hidden science that the rest of America can't take part in the cure and the healing. These MedBeds that like regrow limbs and de-age people and cure all kinds of cancer and all this. It's a conspiracy theory nonsense. And Donald Trump posted it. Now, I said, I think Donald Trump thought it was real, saw him as an AI in an AI video and thought, I don't remember doing that, but man, this is pretty special. I must have said that. Saw the video from the news report of Laura Trump and said, yeah, this seems legit. I'm going to post this. And then took it down. He took it down. When does Donald Trump delete a post? Donald Trump says the most unhinged thing. He declares war against American cities and doesn't delete those, but he deleted this. I think Donald Trump is all the way gone. I think we have a lot to worry about right now in this very moment because he is in cognitive free fall. Where do we begin here? Where do we begin? Let me do this. If you didn't watch the video yesterday, I think it's like 43 seconds. This is what Donald Trump posted on True Social. The story is fake. MedBeds are fake. The technology does not exist. The only thing that's real is that this is a fake video, AI. Donald Trump talking isn't real. Laura Trump talking isn't real. It's not something that was broadcast on Fox News. It should be obvious. And Donald Trump posted this and then deleted it from True Social.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first MedBed hospitals and a national MedBed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own MedBed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase, only a limited number of MedBed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
Some of that might be the least of our problems, though. Donald Trump, while we navigate treacherous domestic policy waters, while the government gets ready to shut down, while he's stripping away health care and food assistance to hungry children, he's posting videos about the 24-karat gold in the White House. This was what he posted. Some of the highest quality 24-karat gold used in the Oval Office and Cabinet Room of the White House. Foreign leaders and everybody else freak out when they see the quality and beauty. Best Oval Office ever in terms of success and look, President DJT. It's the best Oval Office ever in terms of success and look. It's not the best Oval Office ever in terms of policy or the occupant, Donald Trump. It's the best in terms of success and look. You know what's more alarming here is that when you think about, so you always hear people talk about from a 30,000 foot view. Oh, we're going to look up and we're going to kind of take a macro look at it. I like to get on the ground with something and look at it and think about how this was produced. Donald Trump didn't whip out his phone and do these video shots of it. Someone, a staffer, was directed to. Donald Trump saw this gold and thought, we need to get this on video. Hey, come here. Film all this. Make a video of this, because he's so proud of it. Because let me tell you, no world leaders are freaking out when they see the gold in the Oval Office. They have more important things to set their attention to, like policy, like reversing the deleterious effects on their economies that Donald Trump is causing because of his harebrained tariff scheme. They're not worried about the looks of the Oval Office, the cosmetics of the Oval Office. They're not worried about the Oval Office being, in terms of success and look, being the best Oval Office. And then there's this. And we're not going to play this entire video. We'll play just enough to give you the flavor up front. Then we'll speed through to the end. But this is a video that very well, it seems as though this was sent to Donald Trump to lobby his support. And Donald Trump, as president of the United States of America, is posting this video of CBD, the cannabinoid, the non-THC element of marijuana, that people tout as some kind of has curative properties for whatever. And they want to deregulate. And look, there's a lot of arguments on the side of I'm totally for legalization of marijuana for recreation use. They need to be researching whatever medical components we can get, whatever efficacies we can get out of for medical use. Absolutely. Fine. But Donald Trump is posting a video that seems like it was sent directly to him, because at the end of the video, after they go through all of their wild claims that are not backed by actual research, some of it is, some of it's not. You know, it's a mixed bag here. But at the end of the video, there's a message directly to Donald Trump saying, you will deliver the most important senior health initiative of the century, cementing your legacy and transforming aging care. Millions everywhere will thank you. And he shared this video, kind of just letting everybody know he's being cajoled, he's being lobbied, he's being pressured, he's being manipulated on which policies to support and which to not support. Pretty troubling. Watch this.
You can revolutionize senior health care. We've all heard about the major systems in our bodies, like the digestive, respiratory, nervous, and cardiovascular systems. But there's one essential system discovered in the 90s that you probably never heard of. It makes all of the other systems work smoothly with each other. Like a conductor ensuring the different sections of an orchestra all play a beautiful symphony together. This system is called the endocannabinoid system. It has been acknowledged and studied by scientists extensively with support from the National Institutes of Health. As we age, the system weakens. You will deliver the most important senior health initiative of the century, cementing your legacy and transforming aging care. Millions everywhere will thank you.
Grandpa's all the way gone. Grandpa president is all the way gone. From posting then deleting wild alien technology conspiracy videos that are clearly AI, that he should know that I didn't say that. My daughter-in-law didn't say that. I've not approved MedBeds. Why would he post that? Why would he be obsessed with 24 karat gold and his ballroom and all the other things that are unimportant? The government's getting ready to shut down, and he's posting videos of CBD, a policy that he hasn't stated he supports. They're the anti-drug. Oh, they want to restrict everybody's freedoms, up to and including what they ingest. Unless it's a vaccine, then they'll tell you what you can and can't take. But marijuana, the harming nobody, no, they're going to tell you. But maybe not, because Donald Trump is posting weird manipulation videos. This is scary. Was that a hypothetical instance of calling for violence, Daily Caller? When he says, is this a call for violence? Yes, explicitly it is. That must be a hypothetical, explicit call for violence. I've talked several times about how the right is lying when it acts like like it's one entity. The right wing in this country, the MAGA Republicans, even the libertarian types, they act like they were all beside themselves with grief over the killing of Charlie Kirk, and that how could the left do this? How could, oh, this is so terrible. The left, they did this. They plotted this. All of that was nonsense. Political violence must be stopped. We have to come together. We have to bring the temperature down. They've all said this. And then one of them wrote a piece for the Daily Caller, the outlet that Tucker Carlson founded, talking about wanting blood in the streets. I'm not going to read from the Daily Caller because I'm not going to give them clicks. I don't recommend you give them clicks. But here's the headline from the Daily Beast that talks about this article. MAGA columnist makes jaw-dropping demand for blood in the streets. The Daily Caller editor at large wrote, is this a call for violence? Yes. So for all, again, of the hand-wringing and the crocodile tears and the fake concern about domestic extremism, about political violence, they don't care. They want to bring violence. They want to be the administrators of violence. They don't want to be on the receiving end. If they are victimized by violence, it's a grave tragedy and injustice. But if they commit violence, if they provide blood in the streets, it's justified and just the natural outcome of things. A columnist for a leading conservative news website explicitly calls for violence and blood in the streets on Friday. Jeffrey Ingersoll, editor-at-large of the Daily Caller, made his bloodthirsty demand in a lengthy column published on the site under the headline, "Enough is enough. I choose violence," in all capital letters, after his dear leader, Donald Trump. It spoke about striking a fat black woman and using ex-convicts to inflict pain. They tell on themselves every time they open their fucking mouths. These vile, sickening, sinister racists. Ingersoll's call for violence came after Donald Trump and J.D. Vance claimed that it was the radical left that was responsible for growing political violence, a claim greeted with skepticism, but which they have doubled down on. Ingersoll, a formerly editor-in-chief of the site and, like Vance, a one-time Marine public affairs writer, made clear that he was calling for drubbings, cudgels, and extra-legal acts of violence, all in quotes, even though the site later appended an editor's note claiming his essay referred to, quote, hypothetical instances of self-defense, hypothetical drubbings, hypothetical cudgeling, hypothetical extra-legal acts of violence, I guess is what they mean. Who believes this? It doesn't give you plausible deniability, Daily Caller, to publish violent rhetoric from your former editor-in-chief, your Marine public affairs writer. He thinks he's a real baddie, too. I went to his Twitter account, and he's... The photo that's in the article of him unshaven in his headshot is not what this guy looks like now. I'll tell you that. But Ingersoll, in fact, wrote, "Today, I choose violence. Literally, I know calls for violence are generally frowned upon. The issue is, I simply don't care." In case readers were in doubt, it went on to say, quote, "Is this a call for violence? Yes, explicitly it is," end quote, before suggesting that, quote unquote, conservatives could not rely on police or prosecutors, so should bring security with you that's dying to dole out drubbings. Was that a hypothetical instance of calling for violence, Daily Caller? When he says, "Is this a call for violence?" Yes, explicitly it is. That must be a hypothetical, explicit call for violence. One of those hypothetical, explicit calls for violence. We see you. We know who you are. Ingersoll invoked some recent incidents in which conservative activists have faced aggressive responses in the streets, such as an April incident, in which pro-life activist Savannah Craven Ontow, I don't know who that is, was slapped in the head while doing an on-the-street interview about abortion in Harlem, New York. He described the attacker as a fat black lady and a brutish, hulking woman. Yeah, that appeared hard to square with Ingersoll's column. Quote, "So some activist takes the sign next to your table at a public debate," he wrote. "She gets instantly clotheslined. I don't care if police are present. Do it anyway. In fact, be wildly disproportionate," says this person who served in the Marine Corps as a public affairs writer. Even the photo he has pinned to his Twitter account to really make being a Marine his personality is him at a keyboard. He added, quote, "We must stop clutching our principles and shouting stop. They own the legal system. That will achieve nothing. We need action. Disproportionate, violent action." That must be hypothetical, disproportionate, violent action. Right, Daily Caller? "The time to go as lambs to the slaughter is over," he wrote. Ingersoll, 43, was an enlisted Marine who served in public affairs, not combat, in Iraq, then went to New York University to study journalism, claiming in his online biography that he discovered Manhattan's Greenwich Village was more dangerous than Baghdad. Yeah. Tell me you've never been in danger in a combat zone without telling me you've actually never seen real danger in a combat zone. When you think Greenwich Village in New York City, Greenwich Village in New York City is more dangerous than Baghdad. Also, let me say this before I end. It is the times to go as lambs to the slaughter is over, he says. When did that begin? We must stop clutching our principles and shouting stop. When did that begin? You must stop doing that. Republicans, conservatives, the Trump cult has been violent from the jump. There's never been a time where they've been pearl clutching. The only time they pearl clutch is over their lies and culture war nonsense, when someone else's behavior does nothing to diminish their rights or their life in this country. He's a liar who's trying to whip the base into a frenzy to commit acts of violence, while the Daily Caller does its best with its hypotheticals. Oh, this is all hypotheticals. They're liars. They want blood in the streets by their own admission. So next time you hear Mike Johnson or J.D. Vance or Stephen Miller or any one of these other worthless fucks tell you that we need to bring down the temperature, we need to really watch what we say, we need to come together and find commonality, they don't want that. They don't want peace. They want war, as evidenced by the dear leader's declaration of war against different blue cities in this nation, cities that did not vote for him, in states that did not vote for him. And this shitbird is just another example of that. Anyway, what do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are marching steadily ahead to 1.5 million subscribers, hoping to get there by the end of the year. You can also like and follow the Facebook page, which almost has 20,000 followers and likers. You can also comment below the video wherever you're watching it, or call and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail. Please keep them brief. 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily@dollemore.com.
I mean, this looks like it was directed by the president. Don't you have any qualms about any president telling an attorney general, go after these 3 political opponents?
I would take issue with that.
I don't know that I'm ever going to get used to the Christians, real heavy air quotes, fat, meaty, juicy air quotes. The Christians like Mike Johnson, the white Christian nationalists like Mike Johnson, White Johnson, that works too, right? I'm never going to get used to them just looking down the barrel of a lens of a camera in a studio and lying while claiming to, with zero credibility, following and adhering to the teachings of their deity, the Son of God, they claim, Jesus the Christ. Because we know that Donald Trump was indicted by several independent grand juries from jurisdictions all over the country, from Manhattan to Florida. Here in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump was indicted by grand juries of citizens. That was weaponization, according to MAGA Mike Johnson. Now that James Comey has been indicted by a grand jury, look, this is just the process. This is no problem. It doesn't matter that Donald Trump directed his Pam Bondi. She's not really the attorney general. That's Stephen Miller. So I don't know. I don't know what to call her. The messenger. She's the spokesperson for the Department of Justice. How about that? Directed her. Who directed, at the time, the MAGA-aligned U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, who said, there's no evidence here. I'm not going to bring this case. This is just persecution. This isn't a prosecution. This is a persecution. I quit. And Donald Trump said, you can't quit. I fire you. So what did Donald Trump do? He put his personal attorney In the documents case, the 80s Tawny Katane lookalike, the all we need is blue eyeshadow, Lindsay Halligan, and on the first day when she was appointed as the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District, she indicted James Comey. And then when they got to court, she's like, well, I didn't write this indictment. She's like, you didn't write the indictment, the judge says. Well, no. Yeah, of course I did. It's all just nonsense. It's Donald Trump directing the persecution of his opponents, his perceived opponents. Because I'll say it again, the only reason Donald Trump was president the first time is because of James Comey. But here's MAGA Mike Johnson trying to make the case that grand juries are good when it's Donald Trump's opponents being indicted, but they were weaponization when it was Biden's DOJ.
Just looking at the principle at stake here, if you can remove Comey and Trump out of the equation, as a constitutional attorney and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, do you believe it's acceptable for any president to publicly or privately instruct their attorney general to prosecute a political opponent and go as far as firing a U.S. attorney if they don't bring charges because they don't think the case is strong enough?
I'm glad you brought up the principle. That is exactly what's at issue here. James Comey lied to Congress. Okay, he took an oath. He said things to Congress that were simply not true. It's called perjury. A grand jury that is not, a nonpartisan, non-biased grand jury that was assembled looked at the charges and they agreed, they voted to bring an indictment of James Comey. Not President Trump, not the DOJ, but a grand jury. That's how our system works. It's a very important principle for us to apply that everybody has to subscribe to the law, even a former FBI director. And he has lots to answer for. There are many things that he could have been indicted for, but the statute of limitations ran out on so many of those matters. Not here. Perjury is important. You can't, especially if you're a high official, appointed or elected official, you cannot raise your hand, take an oath, and lie to Congress. And that's an important principle, Jake, for us to advance.
I hear what you're saying, but you didn't answer the part about President Trump putting it all out there for everyone to see on Truth Social after pushing out the U.S. attorney, this conservative Eric Siebert. He wrote to Pam Bondi, the attorney general, nothing's being done about Comey, Schiff, and Letitia James, even though they're all, quote, guilty as hell. The president demanded justice must be served now. He mentioned Lindsay Halligan, who is now the acting U.S. attorney. And Bondi clearly got the message. She appointed Halligan U.S. attorney, despite the fact she has no prosecutorial experience. A few days later, Halligan indicted Comey. I mean, this looks like it was directed by the president. As you know, indictments are not convictions. Indictments have to do with a grand jury saying whether or not a case can be brought. It's not a finding of guilt. The defense isn't even allowed to present a case there. Don't you have any qualms about any president telling an attorney general, go after these three political opponents?
I would take issue with that. I don't think that's what he did. But what I have qualms with, Jake, is the total and utter weaponization of the Department of Justice. And Comey was a primary person responsible for that.
This is very much akin to how MAGA Republicans, and again, Christians in the right wing, that they say that God has anointed Donald Trump. It's because God allowed it that Donald Trump is here. And you shouldn't question it because it's the will of God for Donald Trump to be president. But apparently it wasn't the will of God. They weren't speaking. That tune wasn't being whistled when it was Joe Biden as president, or God forbid, the black guy, Barack Obama. They weren't saying that then. Then it's God is punishing us. It's the same nonsense. It's cherry picking bullshit from these liars who don't really have a faith other than defend Donald Trump. That's the true doctrine of their faith. That's the statement of their faith. That's their testimony. Is Donald Trump is the best. We must protect him at all costs. We must allow him to stay in the presidency, in the White House for as long as we can, as long as he can, so he can become as fabulously wealthy as he ever dreamed, because he's doubled his net worth since becoming president. Billions and billions and billions of dollars in added net worth to Donald Trump, while these Christians who don't believe, I guess, that it's easier for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. I guess they don't. That's another thing they're cherry picking, I guess. when people around you give these people the benefit of the doubt and act like this isn't based on white supremacy, you point them here. You point them to the comments, to the direct quotes of this dipshit with the Customs and Border Patrol, these masked agents, and you say, well, he said it. He said it's based on how they look. The masked secret police invaded the city of Chicago over the weekend. Some hell of a pictures. Some real doozies coming out from there with these masked. One goof is in like a cowboy hat while they're in uniform, faces covered, marching in front of the Trump Tower along the river there. And if you've ever been to Chicago, this is not, when I was in Chicago last summer for the Democratic National Convention, my hotel was right at the intersection, right there where they are. This is not where they need to be fighting crime like Bovino, whatever his name is, this other try-hard moron who's trying to please Donald Trump at every step of the way. This is just for show. And before I get to this article where they explicitly say we're going to arrest people based on how they look, because this is all terrible, let me give you a palate cleanser in advance of me talking about this article. And here's a video of these same goofs. You can see the cowboy hat moron, the masked secret police of Donald Trump, chasing down a delivery bike rider. Well, chasing him down isn't exactly accurate because he got away. But watch him. And you might want to rewind a couple times to really get the full flavor of this, because like one doofus is on his phone. Maybe there was a Candy Crush tournament this weekend or something. Who knows with these people? But watch them fail. The only thing that would have made this video better is if several of them have just fallen on their faces as they deftly tried to pursue this guy on a bike.
What's up?
Keystone Cops on the case. This is from Christopher Sweat. This is where I got that video. Exclusive. Earlier today, ICE agents chase after a man in downtown Chicago after he made verbal comments but no physical or threatening contact. The man was able to get away. That is what this is. And it's based on how he looks. How he looks. In American jurisprudence, where we have the presumption of innocence, they're stopping. They're using the width and breadth of the powers of the federal government to detain, which is another form of arrest, American citizens, in many cases, based on how they look. That's not innocent presumption. That's, you look like you're guilty. You look like a guy who would have committed a crime. This is all very dystopian. Get a load of this headline from the Chicago Sun-Times. Feds march into downtown Chicago. Top border agent says people are arrested based on, quote unquote, how they look. Immigration agents wearing tactical gear and carrying long guns made arrests in downtown Chicago and the River North neighborhood Sunday. Quote, this is not making anyone safer. It's a show of intimidation, Governor J.B. Pritzker said. Dozens of federal immigration agents took individuals into custody during a winding patrol Sunday through downtown Chicago, and a top U.S. Border Patrol official told WBEZ the agents were arresting people based on how they look. The agents, clad in military fatigues, roamed past some of Chicago's most well-known landmarks on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. The highly visible show of force came just 3 days after Border Patrol boats carrying armed officers appeared on the Chicago River. Now, tell me what you think of that photo from the main page here. This photo of these armed agents of the state, these masked secret police, these Nazi fucks, this Gestapo force, marching in front of the Trump-marketed building, the president's building. What kind of a dystopian nightmare are we living in when the president of the United States is having them patrol as a photo op in front of his building on the Chicago River in maybe the safest area in the entire city of Chicago, which is already safe. Why do conservatives have no problem with this? Why don't Republicans see this and think, we look terrible. This is horrible. Arresting people based on how they look? Maybe someone wants to read up on the Constitution a little bit. The Fifth Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. There's a few of them in there. There's a little bit of a reading, and maybe that's the problem. Conservatives don't read. They're not intellectually curious. Yeah. Gregory Bovino, or is it bovine? Bovino, like a cow. Yeah, who knows? Gregory Bovino, commander at large of the border force, contrasted the people being arrested with a white WBEZ reporter saying agents consider a person's appearance before taking them into custody. Quote, there's many different factors that go into something like that, Bovino said. It would be agent experience, intelligent, that indicates there's illegal aliens in a particular place or location. Then, obviously, the potential characteristics of an individual, how they look, how do they look compared to, say, you? He said to the reporter, a tall, middle-aged white of Anglo descent. He juxtaposed the people he's arresting against the white, middle-aged dude that was interviewing him. Now, how they look compared to, let's say you. How do they look compared to me? I get a pass, apparently, because I look the part. I know I got a MAGA face. I know I look like a Republican. I talk to people about it all the time. It's one of the first things out of my mouth when I meet new people. I'm not a Trump supporter. F them. I know what I look like. I know how I was raised. I know I'm MAGA coded. I'm conservative coded. I would be fine walking around these goofs in Chicago. But if you got brown skin and you got a delivery bag on your bike, you're suspect. That's not probable cause. Bovino, who brought his Operation at Large deportation campaign from California to Illinois this month, made the comments about 3 weeks after the U.S. Supreme Court, after Brett Kavanaugh, by the way, said federal agents could continue stopping people based on factors including race and language during the campaign in California. The court's majority did not explain itself. Of course, they did not. The MAGA Supreme Court, they don't need to explain anything. They're beyond ethics. They're beyond any legal justification or explanation. And finally here, Chicago has been on edge ever since Donald Trump floated the idea of sending National Guard troops into the city in August. Though he never followed through, Sunday's immigration patrols may have given him the photo opportunity he was looking for. And I'm so glad that that's where they ended it, where I ended it there, because that's what he's looking for, is a photo op. I got several others here. We'll end with this particular paragraph. This is the last one here. Asked why agents arrested the man that they'd chased down, that they'd run after, Bovino would not specify anything except that the man didn't resemble the white reporter. That's what this is about. So when people around you give these people the benefit of the doubt and act like this isn't based on white supremacy, you point them here. You point them to the comments, to the direct quotes of this dipshit with the Customs and Border Patrol, ICE, these masked agents, and you say, well, he said it. He said it's based on how they look. If they don't look like a white, MAGA-coded, Republican-coded, middle-aged man, they're suspect. They're saying it. It's not even me. They're saying this is about white supremacy. They're saying this is about racism. If you make decisions about policing based on the color of someone's skin, that is definitionally racist. Gregory Bovino.
274 FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th?
No.
I think the total number of persons
Kash Patel just brought some enhanced understanding to that. They were sent there to do crowd control because of everything that was going on. It wasn't a false flag operation, as President Trump suggested.
All right, let's finish the day with this. Let's talk one more time about the liar, the fake Christian, MAGA Mike Johnson, who went on yesterday, CNN, and just lied to advance the agenda of Donald Trump. A liar. And it seems to me, look, I'm no theologian, I'm no expert in the scriptures, but it seems to me from my many years in church, in my childhood, that lying was not recommended in the Bible, right? Like maybe it wasn't a total ban on lying, although that seems familiar too. I mean, they do, after all, call them the 10 Commandments, even though that's not a literal translation. I think they're, the 10 suggestions. Maybe that's how MAGA Mike thinks of it. But here he is lying. Let me give you some background on it. The other day, Kash Patel said that 274 FBI agents were embedded in the crowd, trying to make out like it was a false flag, that all of the rioters, all of the insurrectionists, all of the people who were guilty of seditious conspiracy against the United States, that they were entrapped by these FBI agents. He had to walk that back, and that's what this Fox News headline that I'm getting to read you is walking it back and saying, oh, no, they weren't there to whip up the crowd. They were there for riot control purposes. Here's the headline from Fox News, so no conservative can act like, oh, that's just CNN, it's fake news NBC. Fox News says, FBI's Patel clarifies role of hundreds of agents on January 6th, says Wray lied to Congress. Current FBI Director Kash Patel, never get used to that sentence. Current FBI Director Kash Patel said the agents were sent to the U.S. Capitol for crowd control after it had been declared a riot. Quote, agents were sent into a crowd control mission after the riot was declared by Metro Police, something that goes against FBI standards. It's against FBI standards when there's an absence of the National Guard because Donald Trump refused to call them in, while a crowd, an unruly armed mob of white supremacists are chanting, hang Mike Pence, hang and murder the Vice President of the United States of America. It's not in the purview of the FBI to go in and do some crowd control. Gotcha. Fantastic. FBI Director Kash Patel. He added, thanks to the agents coming forward, we are now uncovering the truth. We are fully committed to transparency and justice, and accountability continues with this FBI. There's no indication any FBI agents were involved in any events related to Trump's speech on the morning of January 6th at the Ellipse, an FBI official told Fox News Digital, adding that Wray should have disclosed that agents were there when he was asked by congressional leaders. So that's where we are. These individuals were not there to whip up the crowd. They were not there for entrapment. They were there for crowd control. Yet, this, by the way, September 27th, that's 2 days ago, 1 day ago, after this information came out, Mike Johnson's talking to Jake Tapper, and he uses this figure to try to continue the conspiracy theory that it wasn't actually an insurrection. It was some kind of an Alex Jones water turning the frogs gay false flag operation. Yeah. Watch this from Mike Johnson and Jake Tapper, and then we will talk about the lies and the subterfuge and the distraction politics and the worshipful attitude of Mike Johnson of Donald Trump on the other side.
And they have to hold people accountable. We have to ensure that the rule of law applies to everyone. And that's exactly what's happening here.
Does the rule of law have to apply to people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. There's new information over the last couple of days about that as well. Apparently, there were 274 FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th.
No.
I think the total number of persons
Kash Patel just brought some enhanced understanding to that. They were sent there to do crowd control because of everything that was going on. It wasn't a false flag operation, as President Trump suggested.
Well, Jake, wait a minute. Hold on, Jake. How do you know that, right? There's a lot
of questions,
brand new questions about Well, and I'm telling you that there's videos, and it's always been disputed what involvement some of those persons, engaged in, what involvement they had. Did they spur on the crowd? Did they open the gates to allow them in? I don't know. These are questions, but they should be answered. And yes, there's a lot of investigation and discovery to go forward. We have a select subcommittee, bipartisan, a committee that is reviewing the investigation of the original J6 committee. I mean, a committee investigating the previous committee. Why? Because there was so much bias in the system. And that committee was rigged, I think. And I think my theory is, I've always believed that they got rid of evidence and they hid some of this. So all of it's going to come out. The American people deserve full transparency.
Full transparency,
and that's
100%.
what Congress is working on, and that's what the administration is working on.
I'm always in favor of full transparency, including, including for the Epstein files, which that will probably come on the floor of the House.
Me too.
Soon, and we'll have lots of discussions about that. Speaker Johnson, always good to have you here. Thank you so much, sir.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Jake. I'm so glad you brought that up. It gives me an opportunity to lie. It gives me a wonderful opportunity to talk about the 274 agents and say a thing that is not true. The Christian. You know what this is about? This is about the Republican Party assisting Donald Trump, joining in a conspiracy against the country, joining in a conspiracy one with another against history itself. And it's not just me who's been screaming this for years, although it is me who's been screaming it for years. It's also Donald Trump's own White House counsel, not the official White House counsel, but worked in the White House counsel's office, Ty Cobb. He said this on Face the Nation yesterday, not about this particularly, but just in general, as an umbrella understanding and analysis of what's taking place, that Donald Trump is trying to rewrite history so future generations of young people won't know the treachery, the sinister actions of this traitor to the country and what he did. Watch Ty Cobb.
Well, I think if you go to 30,000 feet, what you see is a lot of moving parts, but simple themes. The simple themes are rewriting history. Trump wants to rewrite history so that the next generation may not know that he incited a violent insurrection, refused to peacefully transfer the power of the presidency after losing an election, stole classified documents and showed them to friends and guests at Mar-a-Lago, and that he was a criminal. I mean, he's a convicted felon. Anybody involved in those events that offended him, they're in real danger. So you have the rewriting history stuff. The U.S. attorney that he appointed as personal lawyer, Lindsay Halligan. Her role previously in the administration was trying to eliminate the theory that America had slaves at the Smithsonian. She was there to whitewash the Smithsonian and paint America as something that it isn't. I mean, America needs to learn from the mistakes and lessons that we've had, and one of the biggest mistakes that America ever had was re-electing President Trump.
And one of the biggest mistakes that America has ever made was re-electing Donald Trump. Says the man who knows Donald Trump very well, who nailed it, who's repeating the analysis of people like me in this space, on Facebook, on YouTube. It's undeniable. It's unassailable logic. We have seen time and time again Donald Trump repeat the biggest lies possible over and over and over, with hopes that people start believing them. And largely, in MAGA world, certainly, the cult, the dear leader can do no wrong. They're selling hats. Trump was right about everything, when Trump is wrong about literally just about everything. There's very little that Donald Trump is right about. Because we know the chronicling, the counting, the logging of all of the tens of thousands of lies. It's now just become oxygen for him. It's just a second language to him, which is good that it's nice to have a president that's bilingual. It's just unfortunate that his second language is lying out of his fat fucking face. What do you think? I invite you to this very respectful conversation about the president. Before you do, though, make sure you're subscribed. If you like the way I deliver my analysis and my commentary, my reporting on the news, I would appreciate it. Look, I know I'm not for everybody. I should say this more often. I know that I'm not for everybody. If you're still here, it means maybe I am for you. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It would help us get to 1.5 million subscribers by the end of the year, and I would appreciate that very much. You can also help us get to 21,000 likes and follows on the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily. That would be great. And you can call and leave me a brief voicemail. Please keep them brief. I mean, if it goes over 3 minutes, Google will cut you off. 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. If you're still up for helping produce this work, helping support independent media, please do. You can go to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Or as an alternative, not quite as good a decision, not quite as good for the channel, but you become a channel member on YouTube by clicking the join button on the channel or below the video. I would appreciate that very much. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.